present, we have guests who have signed in. Go ahead and start with new business. I had an idea last Saturday, to use, Sandy and I aren't getting any younger, and hauling the equipment in and out is rather, it's heavy, it's physically demanding, and so, I thought it'd be a good idea to incorporate some, high school students that are from government class. Give them an opportunity to see the election from the inside, and of course, utilize their youth for the physical part of it. I reached out to Brian Tonsoni from Delphi High School, thought it was a fabulous idea. He's gonna put together a list of students that he would recommend. And so today we're gonna discuss that. I'll open it up for discussion for other board members to give their opinions. And
Is there gonna be a problem with students being out all afternoon?
we would probably have to discuss that, but I
You
did
didn't
tell
say
him.
anything about that.
Yeah, I told him, I outlined when we would need them and for what we would need them for.
And what was that?
I told him that we would need them for Friday night to set up, and then Saturday to tear down.
So Friday night, not Friday afternoon.
Well,
Okay.
Friday
Friday
afternoon,
afternoon.
Friday.
So our normal setup times?
Friday, yeah.
Okay, and then Saturday,
Which I didn't think
normal.
of because they could be in school at that point, so they would have to get excused from classes early to do that. That was not considered.
And then they would go back on Saturday.
And then they would meet us after we left here at 1:30, so we would just have to meet us here at 1:15. All go together, and the student, we just wouldn't be able to leave the students with any equipment by themselves. Yeah. So,
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
The only thing I see an issue with is this Saturday.
oh, I don't think we'd.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
I mean, our own issue
Okay.
with the weather.
So, just a,
So would they be hauling it in their vehicles as well, or would we still do
I
it like
think we
we're?
would just do it like we're doing it now. They would just be there to help us carry it in, carry it
And,
out.
and how many are you talking?
I would think we would need more than two. They could follow us in their car, cause we wouldn't have any room, and,
That was
they
what
could
I was
ride with
thinking
me.
too.
Cause usually you two ride together, then I drive separate, so they could just ride in my car. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they were using their car, we're almost going to have to pay them for
Yeah,
the
that's,
use of their car.
yeah,
Right,
so, but if they can ride with you, and then Sandy and I would still ride, that would keep a bipartisan team with the equipment.
yeah, and I did give thought of that. On this Saturday, you didn't ride, you didn't go to pick up, so that would be, we can only have, if I'm riding with Sandy to pick up, then the student, well, they wouldn't be with the equipment, they would just have to follow us, and at that point, we would have to.
Right. Well, but I mean, Roger will be here, so Roger is
Well, that's
Sandy.
this week, I'm saying
Oh,
going forward.
Okay, well, but you usually ride with Sandy, don't you?
I do, but if we have students with us, they would have to drive separate, so then we would need to
Yeah,
plan for that reimbursement and mileage.
okay. I mean, we could also, if it's all loaded, I mean, all put together, we could do the Saturday pickups maybe ourselves to eliminate them having to drive. I mean, that could be an
Well-
option.
Again, it just, we're not getting any younger,
Yeah.
and so that's a lot of physical work.
I've been to school and met before, I do that.
I'm not trying to make you feel old, but I
Can I
was
ask-
pretty sore.
Can I ask just for my own information?
Sure.
Where are you picking up from and where are you delivering to?
The voting locations, so like last Saturday, it was Liberty Township Fire Department, 404H, and Deer Creek. So after those polling locations close at 2 o'clock, Sandy and I left here at 1:30 to go to Flora. We helped them pack up their stuff because they were closing up just as we got there. But the others, they had all their stuff pretty much ready to go. It was sitting there, we just loaded it up and brought it back.
Would another option be to ask the volunteer fire department people if they could provide somebody to help?
Well,
in
there's
those
nobody there.
locations?
We would have to do that for each location, so it'd be just as easy to bring the help with us from one location to the other, to the next. Now, on election day, the workers bring all the equipment back.
No, they're. The workers bring the poll books
That's
back.
true. Take that back. They bring the actual election materials back, but then the Lions Club picks up the actual equipment. So I don't know. Other than giving me permission to work with Brian to work out the details, there's nothing to vote on. Is there any objections? Working on Brian? Okay.
And then you'll just bring it back at a subsequent meeting.
Yeah, so we'll have to have notes. There'll have to be a procedure for allowing or getting them permission to use.
Yes.
Which I'm sure they'll take care of. We'll probably need a parent's permission. I'll worry about it. Okay. Any more discussion on that? Okay. Any more questions on that? No. All right, we'll move on to late CFA 4 pre-primary reports.
So we had 2 that were turned in late. We had Deborah Foreman turned hers in on the date it was due at 3:12 p.m. And Dwayne Ward turned his in the following day at 8:11 a.m. And both are after the noon, April 18th deadline.
Okay, I'm gonna give you opportunity to explain the situation.
Well, I wanna thank Sharon for calling me. She did call on Thursday. I got it late that evening because of other things I had going on. And, she did state that they were closed on Good Friday, which would have been a good day for me to come in. This is my 3rd time running and I've always been early. I've never been late. But, in my mind, I thought I'll just do it Monday after school. So I left Flora at 2:45 and came and filed it. It was my mistake. I assumed 5 o'clock courthouse closes, so it was in my mistake.
Any thoughts, comments?
So thank you, Deb, though, for being honest.
It was my mistake.
She was banking those days from the time she turned it in early. Just thought I'd help you out a little bit.
Thank you.
So, am I right that it should be a $50 fine?
Anything from 12 o'clock, at 12:01 is considered day 1. And at midnight, the next day, that's technically considered day 2. So hers would be considered 1 day late. Mr. Ward's would be, if we so found, would be considered 2 days late.
So we're talking technically a day, but really,
For Deb's,
but really
yes,
it's
1 day.
not, it's a few hours. I'm inclined to wait. All in favor? favor? Aye.
Can I ask a question before we go?
Sure.
I just wanna make sure we're not going to be, because we've already set the precedence that a late is late, and we've already fined other people for being late, whether it was their first time or not. So I just wanna make sure we're not, I don't want any of it to come back that we're playing favoritism. We have fined someone just in the last quarter that was late. He was given the same information, that Deb said that she received the same information. Her report is late, just as his report was late. So I'm inclined to not waive it, only because I don't think that once we've set a late is late, now we can adjust the fees, like in Mr. Ward's. We can adjust the fees down.
So the $50 isn't exactly set.
Well, it is set, but we have the ability to say
change
that
We-
it's
we
only
have-
one day instead
right.
of two.
So, I mean, to me, it's different waiving a couple hours versus a day or two. I just wanna make sure that nothing comes back on us as being, not being fair across the board. I think if we've decided we're gonna charge them, whether we lower the fee or not, then I still think something needs to be, a fee needs to be assessed at some point.
I'm in agreement with that.
I am too, you bring up a good point.
So should we adjust the fee because it was only a few hours, but assess something, maybe 25?
I have no problem with putting in $25.
Okay.
So are you amending your
Yeah,
motion?
I'll amend my motion to assess a fee of $25,
And I will second
just for the sake of being consistent.
May I say thank you? I need to get back to work. Can I be
Okay, yeah.
dismissed?
It's been decided at this
Leave your
point.
check
Thank
at the
you.
door.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now you're ready to call for a vote. Did you
Oh,
actually call
sorry,
for a vote?
yes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Yep.
it. So it means it's
So the Waynes,
It's 2 days late, right?
according to the way the law is written, yes, it is technically 2 days late.
So when was his turned in?
His was turned in at 8/11 the following day. Give him
Sure. I'll give you the opportunity to explain what happened.
Came on Friday, not knowing it was closed, because that was taking paper.
Oh, God.
Monday,
but I did call.
anyhow, Monday, her and I both had doctor's appointment in Lafayette, so I didn't attempt to come, so that's why I didn't come till Tuesdays.
Now, personally, I understand that that's the way the law is written, it doesn't make any sense to me how
I agree with,
it should be 24 hours. So
I,
if it's due by noon on Monday,
it should be till noon.
it should be until noon on Tuesday.
I don't have a problem with that either. That's how my thinking process is as well.
So
So how much you say?
I
$100.
make a motion that,
Debbie, yeah,
I make a motion that we,
you put it in the paper, I'm gonna shoot you.
just award
That'd be good, that'd be good.
as a one day, because in my mind, we basically missed by 11 minutes. In my mind.
And I'll second that motion. All in favor? Aye.
I,
So how much do I owe?
$50.
Okay.
So basically, they cut both of them in half.
I would suggest you also just write a note that Good Friday messed everybody up.
but I will say that I called everyone, I told them we were closed on Good Friday and that they could put their report in the drop box on the courthouse lawn.
It's such a sacred day.
Yeah, I
Everybody's
agree,
mind is
but
on it.
that, I did, that's why I specifically made the calls to make sure that people knew we were closed. And they could put them in the drop box and they would be
I'd like-
considered on time.
I'd really like to make the point that it's such a sacred day. Everybody's thinking about Jesus, not with me.
Any more comments? I mean, we've already voted.
So, are you ready for the next?
Yeah, so we have old business.
No, we still have any.
Defective.
Oh, I'm sorry, defective CFA.
So I have one, finance report that was turned in, however, from the Tony Liggett campaign. However, it did not include the entire, it was missing part of
Keep my name out of
the requirements.
Right.
So, I did reach out to him, I sent him a letter, he's received the letter, his treasurer came in this morning, and they actually found another error on it, that I wouldn't have known, because it was something on, it was a clerical error on their side. So, they will be submitting that amended report tomorrow. It does fall within that 5-day grace window, so there will be nothing monetary, provided we get it tomorrow. Even if we get it on Saturday, there's no monetary fine that would be assessed to that, because the report was turned in correctly, just not in complete form, so.
So there would be no action needed from the board.
No,
It's the way I understood it, I just wanted to state that. The pauses are because I can talk faster and she can write.
that is true. I did not take shorthand,
Okay, so, ready to move on?
yes.
Old business, have anything? Sandy? No. Goodness gracious, I didn't. So at our last meeting, which was last Saturday, it was, I observed that there was no security tag on ballot boxes. Sandy and I talked about it, called you,
On the lid,
the lid.
the lid,
So,
yes.
the explanation has never sat well. Because at first I thought, okay, nobody can turn the ballot box over to get it out. It's just a little spot. But as I thought about it, that doesn't mean nobody can add to it. And because where are they located? They're just in the museum, right?
In a secure area, I mean, they're behind
But they're not in a cage.
they're not in a cage, they're not required to be in a cage.
Okay. Personally, I would prefer, and I'll pay you the $2 to buy the tags if that's necessary, but our job is to make sure the elections are secure. And so that security tag is just one additional step. And what did you say, they were 40 cents a piece?
Yeah.
So For 40 cents.
I mean, I have them, I was just going with, that little door does not have to be secured until all of the ballots have been placed in it. We don't, like the one that's down in the early voting, the case itself is secured by 3 straps.
Right.
But the individual box lid does not get secured every night, because it's in the secured location. So that is the way that it is written.
How many people have access to that?
The museum,
We
The-
have custodians that are
they-
not,
they do not have a key.
they don't have a key.
No, I am the only one that has the key. So the
Okay.
poll workers that come in the morning, I unlock the door for them, I lock the door at night, and I am the only one that holds the key. Custodian needed in this morning, he called me and said, hey, I need in there, I need to look for something. Election related, so I was here, I let him in, I stayed with him until he was done, and I relocked it as he left. So there's no one that has access to that room.
I just assumed that they would at least have access to it.
No, he does not, he turns, anytime once the election products go into that room, he relinquishes all keys to me. And there's 3 keys and I have all 3 of them.
Well, it was something I had never thought of until Drew brought it up. And I'm with him, I personally think,
For the cost of it,
yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's
not a big
a minimal
expense.
cost, so the security is well worth the 40 cents.
Okay. So you want them strapped as they go out and strapped as they come back?
Well, if they go out empty, there's no reason to grab them. But
Okay.
like if we're reusing them
So-
and they have ballots in them, then.
So the ones going out Saturday, you would prefer them to have a strap on them that the poll worker has to cut off?
Yep.
And then you want them to restrap at the end?
Correct.
Okay.
And speaking of poll workers for early voting, this is really not on the list, but it was just something I thought, when we were helping Flora, get set up that morning, well, I was, they had a lot of questions because the instructions are for election day and not for early voting, and that it's different, so.
They should have had the right binder. It was brought to my attention, I did not know that when all that stuff was printed, originally it had codes in it. I didn't know that, so they've now been removed.
Well, it was just the procedures, like starting up, it was referring to steps for the DS200, and they didn't have a DS200.
Okay. I will
So
look at that.
it was confusing to them because neither one of them had done it.
Okay, I will look at that because I did not, unless the wrong book, because we do have election day binders and early voting binders.
Okay, it's
So
possible
let me
they
make
just had
sure
the
that,
wrong binder.
it didn't get the wrong book put in it.
And so while I was there, she pointed out at least 2 things.
Okay,
And that's another thing, I don't know how you can do it, but to have 2 new people working together that
Yeah,
have
I-
worked election,
yeah,
I
that,
think it's a good idea,
and I don't set those.
yeah.
The party
that's what I
chairs
mean,
set
yeah.
those, so, I have that in my notes, that if that occurs another time, and then, like, even in the general, I will reach out to both parties and ask if they can move someone, so that we don't have 2 brand new. Yes, that was, when I saw that, that was problematic to me, but I don't set them, so,
I will say that it only took you two people to catch up and get the hang of it, so. He struggled through the first 2, but once he got the hang of it, it went pretty quick.
Yeah, the shutdown was probably more confusing because it was talking about recording votes on a document that didn't exist.
Exactly, yeah, that's from the DS200, so. And the DS200 is the machine that you run the ballots through, but to count but we don't count for early voting, so that machine's not even available. So there are no vote counts available to the workers for early voting, so it was calling for them to write those numbers down, but there were no numbers to write down because they didn't have the report. So that's all I have on that, and I don't guess really. So let's just, for the sake of doing it, I make a motion that seal the lids on the ballot boxes, both going to the locations and coming back,
And I'll second.
Once there's ballots in.
once there is ballots in the box. If they're empty, it's not necessary. All in favor?
Aye.
And another item for old business that we've discussed in the past is the policy about how to submit a complaint. I personally don't feel that a complaint should be able to be filed anonymously. We need to know who filed it and that it was that person. Because there are no guidelines that I could find from the state. We don't have a policy. However, there is a federal policy in the Federal Election Commission. And I'm gonna pass this around. And we're not gonna vote on this today, just in case there's public input, but I do wanna give what I propose.
You couldn't get up
I'm just gonna read this real quick. All complaints must be made in writing and must provide the full name and address of the person filing the complainant. They must sign, sworn to, and notarized, meaning that the notary's certificate must state that the complaint was signed and sworn to before me, meaning the notary, or must indicate the complaint, affirm the complaint under penalty of perjury. Complaints must be sent to the Carroll County Election, board, at the address. In order for the complaint to be considered complete and proper, it should clearly recite the facts that show specific violations of the board's jurisdiction and clearly identify each person, committee, group, or entity that is alleged to have committed a violation. Citations to the law and regulations are required. The complaint should include any documentation supporting the allegations and differentiate between statements based on complainant's personal knowledge of those based on information and belief. Statements not based on personal knowledge should identify the source of the information. It just seems like a no-brainer. If you're gonna file a complaint, we should know who you are. And the reason they have, at least I talked to the person that wrote this, I'm sure that it has to be notarized, because you don't want just somebody saying, Ed Selvage filed this complaint. It wasn't really Ed, it was just, we're filing a complaint, we're gonna put it in Ed's name so nobody knows that so we need to know specifically who did the complaint.
And this came from the federal guideline.
Yes. That way, if there's a complaint, if there's a question about the complaint, if we don't know who filed the complaint, we don't know who to ask the question to. There's just all this unknowns out there. Now, if you're filing a complaint, just get it in the paper so that it looks like this person did something wrong, well, that's what somebody would do if they were filing anonymous. Just put it out there. They don't care if anything happens with it. They just want to put it out there. I just feel like we need to avoid that. So I'd like to look this over. Sharon, if you could, I know there's an official letterhead with the signatures and all that. If we could, for policies, I'd like us at the May 13th meeting to vote on this. So if there's any,
So during the public hearing, you want to do this
After
one,
the-
or the,
right, we'll do the certification, and then afterwards we'll do this.
so it's not gonna, is it gonna be an ordinance, is it gonna be,
It's a board policy. You can check if we can find out if it has to be in the ordinance, but
time's that meeting, make it 13?
1 o'clock.
Here,
In the,
Clerk's office.
no,
Museum.
museum.
Oh, that's right, museum.
So what we'll do at that time, we'll look over the numbers, we'll certify the results, and then we'll just have, this'll be an addendum to that. Usually at that, that's the only thing that we do, but I don't think we need to push this out any further. Once we start getting into the general, we need to have something in place. Okay, that's all I have. Are there any questions? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment then.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you folks.
one question indicated following the election, poll workers bringing the machines back.
Sorry?
I say, you indicated that following the election, poll workers bring the materials.
That was a mistake. The machines, they bring back the election materials and that's all in the documentation. All in the instructions.
Yeah, the inspector and the Democrat judge.
Right, so on election day, we'll all meet in the clerk's office, everybody brings in their key fob from the machine, from the DS200s. They get taken to the machine in the clerk's office to get the votes off of them. The votes are calculated, tabulated, brought in. The initial announcement is made of the votes. It's not the official numbers. We specify repeatedly, it's unofficial until the certification the following Friday.